The colony lived beneath a dome, on a world too cold and too dark ever to have a proper sky of its own. The people had come a long way to be there, and they had built their small, warm town on the floor of a great glass dome, with their houses and their gardens and their gathered lights, and above it all, the dome itself, curving up into the dark. And because a people cannot live well without a sky, without something lovely and changing to look up at in the evenings, the makers of the colony had given the dome one. Each night, across the vast curved glass, there bloomed an aurora. Slow rivers of soft color, green and rose and deepest blue, drifting and folding and shimmering the way the old auroras of the homeworld were said to have done, so that the people of the colony, looking up from their gardens as the day's work ended, might have something to wonder at, and be soothed by, and call, though it was made by human hands, their sky. And the hands that made it were Vela's. She worked alone, high up in a small round room set into the rim of the dome, with a great slow instrument of the sky was hers to play. It was not, she always said, so very different from painting or from music. Each evening she came to her station as the light of the day lamps dimmed, and she woke the aurora, and she composed it, hour by hour, choosing the colors and the way they moved, drawing the great soft curtains of light across the dark glass for the people below. She had done it for many years, and she loved it as you can only love a thing you have given your life to. She thought of the whole colony, sometimes as a single sleeping child, and of herself as the one who sat up in the dark and made sure that when the child looked up, there was something beautiful there, and that it was never, not for one night, an empty and frightening dark. There were machines that could have done it, of course. There were patterns a machine could have run across the glass, lovely enough, and no one need ever have climbed the long stair or sat up alone in the dark. But the makers of the colony had decided, in their wisdom, that a sky ought to be made by a person, that a thing meant to comfort people in the night ought to have a person's care in it, a person's attention, someone who had looked at the day and felt it and chosen what the night should hold. A machine's sky would have been beautiful, but it would not have been watched over. And there is a difference, Vela knew, between a beauty that merely happens to you and a beauty that someone made for you on purpose. The same difference there's between a room that is warm and a room where someone has lit the fire because they knew that you were coming. It was late one night, with the aurora running slow and green above the sleeping town, when Vela heard the small sound of feet on the stair and turned and found a child. A boy of perhaps 7, in his sleep clothes, who had climbed all the long way up to her little room at the top of the dome, and who stood now in the doorway looking not at her, but past her, out the great blooming sky, with his mouth a little open. His name was Tam, and he could not sleep, and he had wanted, he said, to see where the sky came from. Vela did not send him back to bed. She remembered being a child who could not sleep, and who wondered where things came from. She drew a second chair to the great window, and sat him in it, and let him watch a while, the two of them together in the colored dark, the maker of the sky, and the small boy who had come to find her out. For a while neither of them spoke. Below them, through the great curved glass of her little room, the town lay sleeping, its lights mostly out now, only here in their late window, still gold. And above them, and all around them the sky she had made that evening went on turning, slow and vast and gentle, filling the dome with soft moving color. Tam had never seen it from up here, so close, so large. Down in the streets, it was a thing far overhead, a ceiling of light. Up here you were inside it. It moved around you like weather, like water, like something alive and kind and enormous. And the boy sat very still in his chair and let it move around him, and Vela led him, for she knew that there are things a person must simply sit inside for a while before they can even begin to ask about them. How do you decide? Tam asked at last, in the hushed voice children use for large questions. What colors to make it? How do you know? And Vela, who had never been asked this by anyone, and had perhaps been waiting a long time to be, was quiet for a moment, deciding how to answer him truly. I watch, she said. All day, while you're all down there living, I watch. Not to spy, only to see. In the sky, I make each night, I make out of the day I have watched. She smiled at his puzzled face. Shall I show you? And she showed him. She turned to her instrument, and she pointed up at the sky she had already made that night, and she told him what was in it. That deep and steady green, there moving so slow and calm, she had made from the morning market, from the way the whole town had gathered in the square in the early light and been glad, quietly, ordinarily, to see one another. That thread of warm rose curling through it, she had made from a thing she had seen at midday. Two people who had not spoken in a long time, meeting on a path and stopping, and one of them holding out a hand, and the other, after a moment, taking it. And that soft, deep blue along the bottom that she was drawing across the sky right now. Even as they spoke, she had made from the evening just gone, from 1,000 kitchen windows lighting up one by one, from families sitting down together, from the ordinary, safe, warm clothes of an ordinary day. It is all in there, Vela said. Everything good and small that happened today, down there where you live. I gather it up all day, and at night I give it back to you, made of light, so that even the smallest kindness nobody noticed does not simply vanish. It goes up into the sky, and everyone sees it, and no one knows it is there, and it makes the night beautiful. There was more, she told him, more than any single night sky could ever hold. For a day is very full of small good things once you have learned to watch for them. The old man who fed the birds on his sill, though, he could barely feed himself. The teacher who stayed late for the one child who was struggling and made it seem like nothing at all. The two friends who laughed so hard by the fountain that strangers smiled just to hear them. A grandmother's hand in a grandchild's hand. A quarrel not had. A cruel thing not said. She could not fit them all, she told him. She had to choose, each night, the way you choose which moments of a good day to hold on to as you are falling asleep. But she tried to leave none of it out entirely. She tried to make sure that every kind of kindness got its color, sooner or later, up there in the turning dark, so that no one who had done a small good thing would go forever unseen. Tam looked up at the sky for a long time after that, and Vela watched his face and saw the moment it changed. The moment a sky that had only ever been beautiful became something more than beautiful. So, it is us, he said slowly. The sky is us, is the day we had. It is, said Vela. Every night. You have been looking up at yourselves all your lives and never knew it. He thought about that in the way that children think about the truly large things, with his whole face. He thought about all the evenings of his short life that he had lain in his bed and looked up through his window at the colored sky and believed it was only weather, only a pretty thing that happened, the way rain happens or wind. And now to be told that it was not weather at all. That was them. That the beautiful thing above the town each night was made of the town itself, of its mornings and its middays and its small kindnesses, gathered up by a woman in a high room who loved them enough to sit alone in the dark and give their own goodness back to them as light. It was, he felt, almost too big a thing to hold. He held it anyway, the way that children can. And then, in the smallest voice, he said, "My sister was kind to me today. She let me have the last of the sweetbread, and she did not have to." He looked up at the great, slow, blooming colors, searching. Is that up there? Somewhere. And Vela, who had not seen that particular kindness, for she could not see everything, did a thing then that was perhaps not strictly true, but was true enough and truer than the truth. She reached to her instrument, and she found a small quiet place in the sky where a new thread might go, and she drew there a single fine ribbon of warm gold, and she sent it curling gently up through all the rest. "It is now," she said. They sat together a while longer, the sky painter and the boy, and watched the gold thread drift up and fold itself into the greater sky, into the green of the morning market and the rose of the offered hand and the blue of the lit kitchen windows, until it was part of the whole, until you could not have said where the boy's sister's kindness ended and all the rest of the day's goodness began. And that, Vela thought, was exactly as it should be, for that is what kindness does. It rises and it joins the rest, and it makes the dark less dark for everyone, whether or not a single soul ever knows whose kindness it was. Vela had wondered, sometimes, in her long years alone in the high room, whether the work was truly worth it, whether it mattered, in the end, that the sky was made with love rather than by a machine, when no one below could tell the difference, when no one below even knew her name. She did not wonder it anymore. She had seen the boy's face. She had seen the moment a child understood that he was watched over, that his small kindnesses did not vanish, that someone, somewhere above him in the dark, was gathering up the good of his days and keeping it safe and giving it back to him as light. That was worth a life, Vela thought. That was worth 100 of them. After a while, Tam grew sleepy. At last, watching his sister's gold thread drift among the stars that were not stars, and Vela walked him back down the long stair to his bed and told him that she would be up there every night, watching and gathering and giving it all back as light for as long as the colony looked up. And Tam slept, and above him, all night, the sky he was part of turned and glowed and kept its gentle watch, made of nothing in the whole world but the small, good, ordinary things that people do for one another and hardly ever notice and never quite forget. Wherever you happen to be tonight, and whatever quiet task is keeping your hands busy, thank you for spending this little while here with us. Rest easy, and whenever you are ready, there will always be another story waiting.